Less than an hour later, the portal into which the guys entered began to sparkle. The military who were nearby assumed that this was a measurement gap, which means that they are completely fucked. However, the old man drew the guys' attention to the fact that someone was coming out of the portal. It was the carefree Han Dae-song and his happy partner. Passing by the soldiers, Chan Ho turned to one of them and asked them to collect the remains. A black-haired guy in uniform had a cold sweat running down his face, because such a thing cannot be possible. The strongest old man with whom he once passed the test congratulated the rising star, but the ruler of hell was a little worried about something else. He has the same name with this bald grandfather. Chan Ho was surprised, because shouldn't the old man have colleagues if he is from the clan of collectors? However, he handed out a business card and said that this was his temporary day job and he would try his best to match his name. Hearing this, Dessen turned around and walked away. The guy in the suit asked to wait for his comrade, but the ruler of hell was lost in his thoughts and reflected that he could not even change his name. One of the most elite skyscrapers with a helipad, passing through the apartment, Ryertal explained that this apartment offers a stunning view, and everything is perfect in the house itself. Suddenly, Han Jisoo jumped out from behind the wall, who declared with admiration that there is even a toilet in every room here. At the same time, the mother realized that they were quite satisfied with this room, and she decided to ask how much does living here cost? The man with glasses said that the official value is 17 billion, and the actual transaction is 8 billion. Upon hearing this, the woman fell into a stupor, but the man tried to justify this amount by saying that the Association of Hunters is right here nearby. According to the business guy in the jacket, in their time, the most important thing is safety. He also remembers that if he is not mistaken, her son also became a successful hunter. Here, Han Jisoo gets into the conversation again, who proudly declares that her brother is an A-level hunter who could become an S-level hunter, but now the man with glasses understands why the boy has such a familiar face. The ruler of hell said that he liked the house and he wanted to get a discount if he made a purchase right now. However, the realtor was not going to lower the price. He again tried to explain it by saying that the level of security affects the price of apartments. He also mentioned that in one of the expensive houses nearby, Lee Changshik hunter of the S-level lives. Hearing this, Han Dae-song got really angry. He wanted to know how much cheaper he gives apartments to S-level hunters. At the same time, the confused man said that they were given about 100 billion. This price tag greatly impressed the women, but Dessen sees new opportunities that he can get. For example, he can buy this house that costs 80 billion. Late at night, when the city stopped, a lonely woman was walking along a dark street. It seemed to her without reason that someone was following her. At the same time, the girl decided to speed up her step, when suddenly she bumped into a mysterious figure clumsily. Frightened, the girl with a tremor in her voice asked the unknown, "Who is he?" However, the guy ignored her question and said that she should not be afraid of him, and also she has a choice, and she should be grateful for it. The next day there is a morgue at the police station. Those present noticed that this girl died in exactly the same way as Sogu, only there are 10 such victims in Seoul and even more across the country. The fat man said that they would not be able to stop the reporters, but the guys standing opposite thought to themselves that it must have been done by the awakened one. Jin Ki-hun was very seriously concerned, not only that the portal with monsters has been opening more and more lately, but also a killer who rips out hearts has appeared. Standing next to Ho Chong turned to his boss and asked him to entrust this case to him. He promised to catch the criminal by all means, but the black-haired man decided for himself that for now he would think that it was connected with the same one who killed Soga. Having finished his thought process, the hunter replied to his partner that it was better for him to do business with portals for now. After that, Jin Ki-hun turned to a man standing next to him and asked him to monitor what was happening so that these cases would not leak into the news. In exchange, he promised to allocate a sufficient number of people from the inspection department. Meanwhile, Jang Jinchul woke up in the incubator. Looking around, he could not figure out where he was. All this time, an unknown man in a bathrobe was standing near his capsule and muttering to himself. Turning around, the man noticed with a smile that the boy woke up and slowly he began to approach his bed, and the blonde kid began to panic. When the mad scientist approached, he asked the youngster if he did not find this place similar to the laboratory of the Red Horse clan. Now the worried Jang Jinchul remembered the room where the ampoule was injected into him. The guy in the dressing gown grinned, because the ampoule he gave to Sog turned out to be effective, just the same he personally asked his boss to save the youngster. After that, the madman introduced himself as Elder Hans, and his name is Roman. Jinchul remembered those mysterious eyes that he saw before he lost consciousness, which means he really didn't die. The black-haired man declared that from now on the boy should consider it a rebirth, and from now on he is a servant of Hans. Hearing this, the blond guy asked again, but he didn't have to think for a long time. The man took out an ampoule and asked the boy if he wanted to conquer the whole world with him, because that way he would get much more power. Meanwhile, in one of the offices of the hunters, there was a letter of resignation on the table. And a disgruntled Chang Ho listened to his friend's crazy ideas. Han Daesong wanted to become an S-rank hunter as soon as possible. At the same time, the ruler of Hell declared that he was ready to take on absolutely all portals, because he needed a good discount on a new home. Not having time to realize when Dessen managed to buy himself a new apartment, he realized the seriousness of his words. However, he warned the black-haired man that first he needed to finish his business in the office, and in the meantime he offered the newly minted Akotnik to visit the Aura market and buy equipment there. Equipment, the Lord of Hell had completely forgotten about something like that. Upon entering the Colosseum, a notification appeared in front of him clarifying whether he was exactly ready to complete the mission, and the guy immediately agreed. At the same time, the following message popped up in front of him with the available options. After a little thought, Han Daesong decided to choose the fifth option, the Iron Fortress. Soon, the following notification was highlighted, which stated that Han Daesong would have to eliminate the rulers who would be on the field, preserving the law of causality in order to remove the seal from space and time. Another message appears in front of him demanding confirmation of whether he is sure that he wants to download information about the Iron Fortress of Ballark, recorded in 45 years and 78 days. At the same time, the ruler of Hell confirms his intention, and his entire past life flashes before him. Soon, a mysterious light appears near the Iron Fortress of Ballark. A man with a wooden shield and an iron sword comes out of it. It was Han Daesong, who was greatly puzzled by his ridiculous appearance, and it slightly got on his nerves. Meanwhile, in the Hunters Association, there was a scattered stack of newspapers on one of the tables, which only talked about the appearance of a serial killer. Sitting in the chair, Park Chong-ho arranged for each clan to notify about this and put the news on the main page. Suddenly the door to the office of the chief executive opens slightly. A girl named Ain comes out of it. She hurries to report to her master that the Ocean Clan has failed its task in the B-level basement. However, the guy in the jacket was surprised. He remembers that the Ocean Clan is considered a fourth-generation clan where there is a Baek Heron, and there are quite a lot of awakened Class A. In response, the girl, adjusting her glasses, declares that the strength of the monsters turned out to be more powerful than the skills of Baek Heron. Then the place needs another S-class hunter. Thinking about it, Park Chang-ho realized the seriousness of the problem, because if you don't clean up the already open portal in 12 hours, then there will be a gap in it. However, it's good that it wasn't someone else who requested help, namely Baek Heron. Soon, the chief executive ordered to explain the situation to Lee Chang-sik and Seo Dongkal, and request their cooperation on behalf of Baek Heron. The guy in the jacket realized the intention of the boss, because if you do this, then no one will be able to refuse the number one hunter in Korea. Then Ain appears, who reminds me of a huntress named Ryu Son from Fortis. They don't get along well with each other. However, Park Jong-hun didn't care. He wanted the guys to do everything possible so that the portal would not break. Meanwhile, there was a children's shelter in the destroyed part of the city. Children were having fun on the playground and an adult man was watching them from the side. Two of the guys were playing roles and the black-haired one wanted to get rid of the monster in the yellow t-shirt, but the boy objected and flatly refused the role of the monster. At the same time, a red-eyed man enters the game. His name is So Dongkal. He is an S-class hunter and belongs to the Raven clan. He is 35 years old, and he is the second in rank in Korea. Turning around, the children united in order to overcome such an adult monster, and the man happily played along with them, and began his transformation into a monster, when suddenly a nun turned to him. The second hunter on the list looked at the girl with bewilderment, and asked what happened. At the same time the girl grinned and said that an urgent call from the association had come. At the same time, the man took the phone and said that he was not allowed to relax at all, after which he asked the girl to take the children inside because it was time for him to go. Before the Donka left them, the woman asks him to be more careful and wishes him good luck, but the guy asks if they really doubt the best hunter of their country. Soon, 2 lines of hunters lined up on Jeju Island near the sea level portal. An unknown figure came out of the red rift and said that she was bored. This was Lee Changshik, a Class S awakened who held the first rank in Korea and was only 28 years old. The young hero was greeted with open arms by the rest of the audience. A secretary approached the white-haired guy and said that they had received an official request for help on behalf of Baekhyun. Hearing this, the blue-eyed hunter smiled and, taking a look, remembered what a beauty she was. Meanwhile, Han Dae-song stood on one of the seals and that in turn activated, after which a monster began to stick out from under the ground and a moment later the monster sat at the entrance to the fortress. Before the ruler of Hell, a notification appeared again notifying that the content of his pre-trial mission is that he needs to fill up the guard of the gates of the Iron Fortress, and the time to complete this mission is unlimited. The black-haired man understood that with his current body, it would be dangerous to even walk around there now, because at the moment he only has an ODI sword and an ice shield. At the same time, the ruler of Hell threw his equipment and sat down on the ground. The guy thought about how he knocked down this monster last time, but his memory turned out to suck. At the same time, he looked in front of him again and noticed the ice shield. After that he looked at the boss again, and suddenly it dawned on him. Meanwhile, the military in the city fenced off the entrance to the Level B portal and asked reporters not to cross the set boundaries. However, an amazing number of reporters gathered near the place of the incident who were already ready to tell the people about the first unsuccessful attempt to clean up this Ocean Clan portal. Local government officials could not understand where this information had leaked from. Suddenly, the gathered people turned around and rushed to the Ocean Clan and its representative Baekhyun. Reporters wanted to find out from the S-Class hunter the details of the attack and how she was going to overcome the consequences of the failure of the first attack. Of course, many men were interested in another most important question: does such a charming girl have a young man? Soon, Baekhyun approached an inconspicuous guy from the crowd and politely asked him for a microphone for a few seconds. As a result, she began her grandiose speech that they would definitely prevent the destruction of the portal, and she had already requested help from 2 of the strongest hunters of their country for this. At first, those present did not understand who could be stronger than Baekhyun herself, but soon there were astonished guesses and she confirmed them, because for this mission she called the first and second in the ranking in Korea Lee Changshik and So Dongkal. Reporters even failed to notice how 2 celebrities got close to the ominous portal and hurried to shoot such amazing material. Meanwhile, Galbaglazi with a grin on his face was surprised at how a woman from her failure was able to deploy a whole show. It was not for nothing that he chose her. Standing next to Dongkal suggested that most likely she called all these journalists, and then the queen of this scene squeezed into their conversation. The street was full of reporters and they were all in a hurry to write a whole article about it as 3 S-Class heroes would attack shoulder to shoulder. Meanwhile, a meteor was flying in the Colosseum, which landed exactly in the head of the monster guarding the entrance to the fortress. The attacks did not end there. The ruler of Hell continued to fire fireballs at the monster. At the same time the boss activated his aura and became enraged. But Dessen was trying to achieve this. The black-haired man took a stand and concentrated, because one slightest mistake would cost him his life. At this time, the furious monster was yelling at the guy. The monster did not understand how such an insignificant flea dared to wake him up, when suddenly a giant creature slipped on the ice. The monster with all its might crashed to the ground and the ruler of Hell was not going to lose such a great opportunity. Everything was going exactly as he had planned. Running up to the lying monster, he raised his blade over his head and noticed the seal he needed. Then he did not waste time and stuck his sword straight into the seal on the guard's neck. At the same time, the howl of a defeated reptiloid sounded over the entire Iron Fortress, while the ruler of Hell himself stood motionless and looked at the dying fire. Looking at his cracked sword, Dae-song grinned. He was very lucky that he could remember about the weak neck of this creature. Now, this damaged equipment will not be of any use with such soaps. The black-haired man dumped garbage on the ground. Suddenly, a notification appeared in front of the guy saying that Han Dae-song had received a special permission that was on the seal. Now he can enter the Iron Fortress of Bulwark. Now his implementation level has reached 33%. However, before entering such a dangerous institution, the guy decides to get a suitable weapon first. Now the guy had to overcome various traps and advance to the Bulwark Room. Again, he has no time limit for this mission. The guy from the ghetto stood and felt the concrete wall. He was sure that what he needed was definitely somewhere here. By clicking on the next block, he shifted, which meant that he found what he needed. After clicking, a secret mechanism was activated and mysterious doors opened in front of the ruler of hell. A notification appeared in front of the guy again, which notified him that he had found the Bulwark treasury. Now he can use it for 5 minutes. After that the timer went. In front of Han Dae-song there was a room filled with various equipment. Slowly the kid approached a wooden stand and drew attention to one of them. It was a dark sword that can be a deadly weapon against dragons. Although the sword was of a low class, however, without this weapon, Han Dae-song would not be able to enter Balak's room. Exactly 2 minutes have passed since the ruler of hell opened this treasure in front of him, but he did not hurry and stood motionless, resting on a new sword. There were various armors and treasures in front of him. At first he did not betray much importance to them, but after thinking carefully, he realized that it could be the money that he did not have enough for a first-class apartment. In front of the black-haired man, a Collegium notification was again displayed telling him that he had fulfilled the conditions of the task and now he was able to enter Balak's room. From now on his level of realization in the Iron Fortress reached 66%. Now the ruler of hell was standing in front of the iron doors. Finally he had to fight with the last boss. The monster with round scarlet eyes bequeathed at the top of his throat, so he couldn't stand such a terrible ultrasound and was about to tear off the poor guy's head so that he calmed down, when suddenly the giant began his fierce attack. He grabbed his mighty bat and struck a crushing blow. However, the damage did not reach its goal, because the hunter soared into the air and was ready to strike back. The next moment, he hit the screaming monster on the head with all his might. But after that the screams of the mad creature became even louder. So Donkal turned to his team of hunters and ordered them to attack together right now, after which the adventurers rushed into battle. The guys surrounded the lying monster and continuously inflicted cutting blows on it, but their weapons could not penetrate its thick hide. At this time, Bakharin appeared behind the black-haired hunter, who was cheering with an ardent enthusiasm from the Donkal, when suddenly someone's voice rang out behind her. Was it Changshik soaked in blood? He decided to ask the beauty if she would go on a date with him if he killed all the monsters here. Seeing the hunter in such a state, the girl was horrified, after which she immediately used her healing aura, after which the top 1 hunter felt like new. While the guy was rejoicing at his excellent condition, Bakharin was in a hurry to find out where the blonde managed to get hurt, when suddenly the blue-eyed man said that he had prepared a gift for her. In front of the girl lay the thick of the defeated Ogre King, who occupied the second level of danger. From what he saw, the huntress instinctively opened her mouth, because the guy was able to defeat the Ogre King alone. It's just not true. Li Changshi hugged the beauty and wanted to know if he was cool enough, but after pulling off her teeth, the girl demanded that the boy take his hands off her. At this time, the enraged monsters continued to shred the squad of newcomers, so Donkal could not understand what kind of magical skin the monster had, which even with the help of an aura could not break through. Seeing this, a blonde guy in a dark robe went to the aid of his comrades and before he left, he asked the girl to keep her promise about a date. After that he disappeared. However, Bakharin continued to stand in disbelief, because she does not remember promising anyone anything. Meanwhile, in the Iron Tower, before entering the Iron Gate, Han Dae-song decides to open a stock of his potions. A notification pops up in front of him that there are 128,000 points in his current account, and is he sure that he wants to use bubbles with experience? Without thinking twice, the ruler of hell decides to use the bottles according to maxim, after which a bright light began to emanate from the glass container, which rushed into the body of the black-haired boy. After that, the Lord of Hell received a buff of all characteristics by 10%. After evaluating the effect of potions, he was ready to start a fight. The next moment, he opened the iron doors leading to a spacious hall and Bulwark sat on his gilded throne in front of Han Dae-song. The black-haired man greeted his old acquaintance, but the demon did not blink an eye in response. Suddenly, one of the walls of the room crumbled into small pieces. The fault of this was the scarlet dragon that had flown in. Without thinking twice, the horned creature opened its mouth and prepared a fiery volley at the target, but the guy had long been ready for the upcoming battle. He had a resistance to vanishing dragons and also used an ability called blood naturalization. Meanwhile, in the real world, the curly-haired guy greeted the weekly Hunter's Dear subscribers on his channel, and his name is Yangil. To begin with, he decided to look at the rating of hunters this week. The first place in his rating was taken by the youngest son of a conglomerate who became a hunter just as a hobby, Lee Changshik, to which he is the CEO and part-time chairman of the Josian clan. The second place was taken by the director of the orphanage, the godfather of So Donkal. He became a father to many orphans who lost their real parents because of suddenly opened portals. The list ends with a white lily blooming among the sullen hunter's lovely back heron. The guy says that this week there was one unpleasant situation in the Class B portal, but a team of 3 best heroes solved this problem in just 6 hours. Sitting at the computer, Yangil remembered what he still wanted to tell, when suddenly he saw a familiar face that he had already seen somewhere. Without thinking for long, he remembered that in front of him was depicted that incredible guy who single-handedly saved him once from a crowd of monsters.